Hey guys, welcome back to another video. I know the last one was super long. I'm going to keep this one brief, I promised, like 15 minutes or less. So I'm going to explain what I've done, some of the major changes, some of the little changes. Other than that, it's going to be brief. So I extended the line out to Hampshire Mill again. You will have to adjust something there. This doesn't actually exist, so if you want to keep it prototypical, you do not have to do any of this. But I thought it was kind of cool, because when the Strasburg actually got it in 1961, they actually had this still intact. But moving on, right here, this is up on a grade, so I actually introduced the grade. It will take a little bit of finagling, but you can do it. I've filled out the yard. I've tracked down a lot of the coaches. I'm working on DNRGW slash NOG and W ballast hopper, but not much has changed. I created a custom B&O car. I created a custom Strasburg baggage car. I extended the Cagney line. That's usually stops right about at that tree, down through here and up through here to there, like it is. If you didn't see the video, I know this isn't the actual Cagney engine, but nobody's made it, so I had to make do, and this is a European 2-foot engine. Moving on to the yard, we got this. A lot of you don't know, but this track right here is actually a dual gauge track. And yeah, so I wanted to keep that prototypical, so I actually made a dual gauge track. For those of you who don't know, a lot of people will send stuff to Strasburg, including like narrow gauge stuff, so like East Broadtop, that kind of stuff, and that's how they service that. Even Union Pacific has been known to send some stuff to them. So that's that. Not really much has changed with the yard. I did change up the track a little bit so it's a little more straight, but I added this to the deadline. This is actually the Wanamaker Kempton and Southern 65. I know it's not actually here, but I wanted another engine that kind of mimics one that's there, and they do have an 080 that was actually on the WKNS a long time ago, so I thought, okay, that kind of fits. So I adjusted it. I'm still working on changing out the rusty wheels, but that you will not find in the pack. That is custom. I threw in a couple custom cars here, but other than that, some are fictitious, some are actually real. But yeah, nothing much has changed there. Moving on, first thing I recommend to anybody when they get this route is get rid of the corn splines. They are a nightmare. You don't want them. I have a 4080, and it still absolutely cripples my GPUs. Just get rid of them. They're not worth it. I will be making a video on showing you how to replace it with individual corn. It is just absolutely a nightmare to deal with. Keep in mind the video is going to be using 2019, so if you have 2022 with all the brand new Surveyor tools, I cannot help you. I've gotten used to Trainz 2019, so I'm kind of going to be sticking with it until I have to change it. But I filled out the red caboose. I changed out the Toy Train Museum to something that kind of looks more like it. It's just a lot smaller, but realistically, how much are you ever going to see that? Going down here, corn splines again are the major thing that's changed. Not really much else has changed. Verdant farm, not really much has changed. Again, corn splines. Alright, so we get right here. This is one of the major changes that has happened. Everything from here to Groff's Grove siding has been changed. So this kind of dips up to the crossing and then goes immediately down again, which I absolutely hated looking at. So I changed that to be more level from here to there. And then the grade going from Groff's Grove up to here maxes at like 3%. I think like 3.8% on the original route. It's really, really bad. And 89 absolutely is on the struggle bus when it tries to pull a 8-car consist up the hill. So what I tell people is if you want to be more prototypical and run it with like in-cab stuff rather than DCC mode, I highly recommend that you change the grade here. If you want, leave a comment below. I'll show you about how to go about that. But other than that, really not much has changed here. This is one of the more major changes. That and the maze. Obviously, I got rid of all the corn splines. It runs a heck of a lot smoother than it did before. I added the cafe, some stuff, and the tower, and the mailboxes in the maze, along with some slides that are actually, well, they mimic the stuff that's in it. But other than that, really nothing has changed. I did go about changing splines up on the hill too. Other than that, really not much has gone on until we get to Carpenters. Carpenters, the only thing I've really done is, because it's my favorite spot to, film Trainz, it's up on a hill here, so I went about, actually making it a hill and whatnot, and then the Carpenter's graveyard is actually up on a hill. I really wouldn't have cared about it too much, except for the fact that my favorite place to film at Carpenter's is actually right here, looking down and watching the trains kind of, come around the curve over here and up, and you just don't get the desired effect if it's level, so I actually raised it up on a hill. But other than that, really not much has changed. I did raise this hill here because it kind of goes through a little cut, so I wanted to kind of mimic that. Kind of hard to do without interfering with the track, so that's the best I could do. Anyway, moving on down here. For those of you wondering, if you fire up this route in the wintertime under default settings, this will be white. It'll the embankment, it'll almost look like it's lost its texture. That is because it's a seasonally generated texture. All you have to do is go into the settings here and change it around with the start times and set it to anything but winter, and it will get its texture back. If you need help with it, message me below. I will post a video on how to go about changing the configs, so that way it doesn't look like this just white mound in the middle of summer. It just kind of looks really weird. Looks like it's lost its color. Other than that, not much has changed. Again, splines. Alright, moving on to here. This is Byler's Crossing. It's a driveway. All I did was add a hill here and a hill there to more accurately reflect it. Other than that, not much has changed, although I do have plans on this doesn't actually go up here and then around. It actually just cuts diagonally across to right about this house here, so I do want to change that in the future. But other than that, not much has changed here. This hill that I created here does continue on until you hit the tunnel of trees, so you will have to adjust that, but not really. It's easy. Just plateau tool it, and you'll get the desired effect. You might have to mess around with the hills here because they interfere with the curve, but not too bad. Other than that, not much has changed. I do want to add a hill that kind of slopes down here because this is up on a hill, but I haven't done it yet. So other than that, not much has changed with here. I did kind of do a little bit of elevation here because this is actually higher than this track. Not really an important thing, I just kind of wanted to mimic it. The siding stops here in the original. I extended it so I could put the west, this is supposed to represent the Strasburg number 3 crane, but obviously that's a Western Maryland crane, but I will reskin it eventually. Going down here, not much has changed, didn't really do anything there. The major thing that I've done down here is created the new yard. If you didn't watch the other video, basically this is the new Strasburg yard. Strasburg bought this entire parcel. If you draw a triangle, they bought this entire property. Capital Forest does still operate out of here, and it is actually their main customer for the yard. But basically, Strasburg wants to cease freight operations up their line. It interferes too much with their passenger stuff, specifically in the summer on the weekends. So basically, from this switch right here that my mouse is around, off to the left and up is going to be the Strasburg Passenger Railroad, and from that very same switch to the right here is going to be the Strasburg Freight Railroad. That is not to say that they are operating on the Amtrak main. They are absolutely not. There is just a track off to the side. But yes, if you want to take a picture of it, I will, that is it. I will even turn on the junction overlays so that way you know where all the switches are. Alright, other than that, it will take a lot of effort to do it. You're going to have to remove buildings, trash, trailers, a lot of stuff. And you're going to have fun with the level track here, because you might think that the Amtrak plane here is level. It's not. It's sloped downhill going from the bottom of your screen to the top. So if you plateau tool it like I did, you're actually going to end up with it being significantly higher than the tracks by the end. So that is not prototypical, but I honestly got tired of fighting with it. So at that end, your cars will just roll down into, the off the track. So Other than that, only other thing I've done is if I zoom out here, you'll be like, oh, what the heck, that's a really big loop. Yes, so that is my Amtrak loop. If I zoom in here, you will notice that, I do have an Amtrak train here, and I have an Amtrak train way over there. One's a P42, one's a Siemens something or other. This is an 8-minute loop, so let's say we got this guy. It will take him 8 minutes to go around this whole entire thing. So every 8 minutes, if you're running one train, it will pass Strasburg every 8 minutes. If you have both running, depending on the timing at which you have them going around, it's every 4 minutes. And if you do it, that makes it about an 80% likelihood that when you come down around here, circle around your train, and then pull away, you're 80% of the time you're likely to see an Amtrak train. If you want to make it more prototypical, you can change that to be only one train, and then it's like less than half of the time you'll see a train. But, one of the coolest parts about Strasburg, in my opinion, is coming down here and seeing an Amtrak train whiz by. The only thing I will say is if you do decide to do that, I know the trains whiz by, you're going like 90 miles an hour. However, the sound files for the cars max out at 75. After that, they fade out, and all you get is that generic Trainz like click-click sound, which is the most annoying thing ever. It just kills the mood. So I recommend just stopping the train speed at around 75. If you're wondering how you go about getting the trains to run before you even start up the session, you have a session going where you create this loop, you start the trains, and then at the end of your session, you save it, and then when you boot it up again, they will automatically start back up and do their own thing. So that is how you go about automating the trains. That way you don't have to come down here, click on it, start it up, and then go click all the way back there just to get your engine going. But other than that, that's pretty much it for the route. That's a very brief description of all like the major things that I've done. You will have to do some repainting in the yard. The PBR textures is definitely a huge thing that you're going to have to do, but yes, that is generally what you're going to have to do to make the route better. If you want to fill out the yard with all the payware stuff, both Strasburg and the PR Railroad Museum, you're going to have to spend probably about $65. Somewhere in that neighborhood to fill it out between K&L and the other things. The only things I will say that you can't get anymore are this engine, and then, even though I didn't really show you in the last video unless you watched the whole thing, this engine and this engine. This is an E6. E6 H6, and then yeah, that's about it. Those are all Green Coast Studios. Unfortunately, they took down their website probably about 6 months ago now. They're creating their own game now. I forget exactly what it's called, but when I figure it out, I'll post it in the description. I don't know how you go about getting these anymore, but if you do know, post it down in the description. I do believe that you can message them on Facebook, so that might be worth a shot trying to go about getting them that way. But they are not freeware. They will cost you money. I think it's like $25 for all the PR stuff, if I'm not mistaken. They even have a Q2, which is a really, really cool engine, by the way. I was thinking about putting it here. But other than that, that's pretty much it. If you liked the video, give me a thumbs up. If not, feel free to give me a thumbs down. Doesn't really matter much. I'm just starting to get into the YouTube thing. One of the future projects going on is that I'm going to be changing out these cars to more realistic things. It's kind of a super secret project that I don't want to tell people about because I want to be the first to do it, but basically I know there's a equipment roster on Strasburg website about what all these are, and so I'm going to try and mimic what they are. So meaning like these are actually going to be subbed out for real cocooned cars, and these are going to be subbed out for actual baggage cars that are supposed to be there. I'm working on the models for them, so it'll be more prototypical. I went to Strasburg the other day just to photographics, so I've got a ton of pictures and research to do. The only car I can't find in the consist is the DNRGW slash NYW and something. It's the Strasburg 150. It's the 3-bay modified, a ballast hopper. I'm looking on finding an appropriate model for it, but I can't find one that's exactly right. So until I do, that's just kind of empty. But other than that, I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!